Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to the show. Welcome to another episode of the AFTERBUZZ TV after show for Preacher. We can't freaking wait to break this one down because we have a special guest to talk the whole episode down with you guys. We'll see you in just 1 second.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
And the boys are back in town again.
We're on like a hot streak.
Two in a row.
Oh,
All
yeah.
four of us here. This is big stuff.
We're
too.
actually showing up every week.
Yeah, fulfilling our
Wow.
responsibility.
Whoa.
Here we are. So guys, it's Preacher puzzle piece. We're talking the Grail. We're getting deep into there's so much happening. I want to say everything right now, but I think we should introduce the whole crew here first because it's a very special episode. We have a special guest in studio, and I think we should start with our special guest right now. On the couch, we have Featherstone herself. Ann Emery, welcome to the show.
Yay!
Thank you for having me.
We're so excited
Thank you
because
for coming.
we tried to book you early in the season. They were like, she's got a really big episode later in the season. You should wait to have her come in. So we've been waiting since that week, all talking about like,
that's so
what are we
nice.
gonna ask her? Like this is
Yeah, and there's one more big episode to come. But tonight I feel like really kicked off the Grail.
Yeah.
Like fully and completely as
Yeah.
like a triumvirate, like as a bad guy trio going on in the show.
Totally. So if the folks listening or watching want to follow along, where on the social medias can they find you?
At Ann Emery everywhere.
Oh,
Ooh, you got it.
Instagram,
You're one of the lucky
Twitter,
ones. You're
Facebook.
lucky.
I know, I did. I got lucky.
Yeah.
I got
it
in
up.
early.
How to put the, it feels narcissistic. I don't know.
Well, you find sometimes you meet the person. They're like on Instagram, it's Ann Emery, and on Twitter, it's like Ann Emery. You're like, oh, did you get like miss out or something? You had
Julie
to,
_N.
Yeah, something that's like
Real
almost the
Ann
same.
Emery.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah.
So, all right, on the far side of the table, we got Matt and Marr. What's up, man?
Just speaking of the Matt Marr, that's
The
where
Matt
he's
Marr.
Oh.
Everywhere, 2 T's, 2 R's.
So
that's it.
holy.
So,
Such a holy name.
so into myself. Ugh.
We got my man, Dog Like Nate.
Yeah, guys, you can don't say not the duck guy. Not the duck guy. Yes, Nate Miller here. You can find me on all social media at Dog Like Nate.
And I'm Mr. Dave Child. You can find me at Mr. Dave Child. There was another Dave Child before me, but I'm the Mister. And I'm on Instagram and all that, DaveChild.com.
I've been calling you Dave Childs, as plural, for
Yeah,
like 2
stop
years.
saying our wrong names all
I
the time.
realized that on the phone with you 45 minutes ago. Like,
Yeah.
the first time.
You're weird.
But I just say Dave Childs, and you never have corrected me because you didn't
It's
hear
okay,
it.
Ben Bateman's.
You can
Men?
do that if you want.
Ben Bateman?
Yeah. Man.
Oh, that doesn't work.
Almost,
That just
right?
sounds
Yeah.
like it.
It sounds a little weird.
All right, guys. I'm Ben Bateman. You guys can find me on Twitter, Instagram at Ben Bateman Media. Let's talk about Preacher. And before we do, I should remind everybody here, guys, that some of us kind of know about the comic book. Some of us
Yeah.
don't. We stay kind of vague about it. We make sure we talk about just the show. And at the end of the episode, if you guys want to stick around for a couple minutes of spoiler stuff, we'll do it after the sign-offs.
Right.
So that's the deal. So yeah, we got puzzle piece. The puzzle piece was filled in for Hair Star.
Literally.
It's an excellent choice
Oh,
of words.
boy.
He said
It's
it
an
in the
excellent
episode
choice of words.
The missing puzzle piece.
I don't think he said filled in. I don't.
Oh,
I think filled in was what
missing-
you put
Yes,
in.
that was
You
All right.
decided to say filled
so
in.
it was sure.
Just take the credit. It was,
Okay,
yeah.
I'll take
yeah.
the credit.
I mean, I've discovered some things myself, and that. Never mind. I'm not.
Did you really discover them, though?
Do you have any idea how many people on Twitter ask if that particular thing is going to happen or have been up till?
Oh yeah,
I mean,
Until now.
Yeah.
it's
Anybody who knows the
definitely-
comics.
Yeah, it's an iconic image,
Yes.
just for sure.
It
It's
is.
just like when I think of Preacher, I think of Hair Star and anal sex.
Let's start with the
Yeah.
hair. So we may as well start with the Hair Star storyline, and
Sure.
it plays directly into yours, which is nice. So a couple different things. First of all, I thought this episode we got the first glimpses of what is I think they're hinting at, which is that Featherstone is just in love with Hair Star, and that's just
Yeah.
a thing we're gonna have.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. I don't know that it's love. It's feels more like cult worship
Yes,
to me.
I think it's more
Fascination.
of her being so like immersed within the Grail and like believing in everything in the Grail that just because he's a superior and he is who he is, that's why she admires
It's also
him.
he has a strength and
Yeah.
and a directness and a
the
willingness
power.
to do anything like that. I think she finds really appealing, and
Well, that's
but
probably
I
what drew
do
her to the Grail.
Yeah, absolutely, and I mean, Featherstone is a true believer. She's in the Grail because she believes the world has gone to hell, and if she has to blow it up to save it, she's going to do that, right? So Hairstar is, I mean, he embodies.
Yeah, he's that incarnate.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and they also started to develop the Hoover Featherstone relationship.
Yes.
They really just got us outright. I love you. It's just great. Like that. I've been saying this. My favorite episode of the whole season up to this point was the big Hairstar episode, and I was so gleeful when we were watching it. And every episode since has I just love the Grail so much. It makes me so happy because I'm such a comic book fan, and it just feels like the essence of the comic book is like so beautifully.
Yeah,
it's perfect.
It's just a strange love triangle because it's one way, every single way, except for Airstar, which kind of goes off the map.
Yes.
But it's just because you're fascinated with Airstar, Hoover's fascinated with you, and then
and we continue to burst the person's bubble over and over and over and over again. Yes.
You were fine with having him get shot.
The sequence.
You were like, you were
fine.
like. You personally, as a person, not your character.
So, self-sacrifice is part of the thing, right? We touch on it twice in this episode. We see it in that first scene. She was perfectly happy to get shot herself. I mean, I clear the gun just so he can shoot both of us. But then later in the episode, when we're talking about Brad coming, and he's like, "Shouldn't we clear out?" And I mean, we touch on, I think, the heart of Featherstone there. What greater honor is there than to die serving the Grail?
The whole sequence when he says who's going to die first, and she says him. And Hoover says me, but then the gun's getting jammed, and Featherstone or Hoover repeatedly is buttoning his jacket over and over again, like he's trying to prepare himself to be shot. And as he's continuing to talk and just clicking the gun, but being so dissatisfied with it, the humor is just beautiful.
Yeah. And how brilliant is Malcolm Barrett? I mean, like, you don't even have to try with him. Our scenes are so easy together. Everything just works, and he is funny doing nothing. I mean, he's funny. I keep making fun of him because I do most of the heavy lifting dialogue wise in our scenes, and he gets all the funny. He gets the glory.
The I love you. It was so short and like
he whispered it,
almost deadpan. But it still felt like he's been like holding it inside forever, and he's like, "Now's my last chance." And it was just such a perfect for delivery for like such 3 words, and it was so funny.
Yeah, he's wonderful. He's so great.
I imagine there's a lot of bloopers. There has to be.
Yeah, there's a lot of.
I hope that is shown somewhere someday.
Yeah, there's a great blooper reel actually that was supposed to be shown at Comic-Con, but we ran out of time. So I know there's at least one blooper reel floating around. Yeah, and inside of that, you do see. Malcolm does crack me up. He does things.
The big reveal for you and for Pip Torrens, it was on Twitter at the same time. That was like the big announcement.
Yes.
And I remember seeing it go up, and I was like, "This is so exciting." So with you playing with Pip, was that like when you first met him? Were you like, "This is perfect"? Had you read the comic yet?
Yeah, I was. I started reading the comics when I started the audition process, and thought I would sort of skim through for the Featherstone bits to just build out my character, but immediately got way sucked in.
Of course, yeah.
Because you can miss a lot. I mean, Steve Dillon did such an amazing job. I mean, there's character work and story being told with no dialogue or with no text whatsoever. So it's really something to examine sort of panel by panel. So I'm about halfway through now. But I met Pip the day they were shooting the naked butt scene.
Oh, got it.
And which is, from where I am, it's just the naked butt scene. He was like, "Hello, and now you've seen my ass." He was like, but yeah, he's perfect, right? And they've done such a beautiful job on his eye as well.
Right.
And you'd almost don't. You almost think that he must be walking around like that.
Yeah.
And he wears this giant contact all day.
Oof.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's rough. They keep taking it in and out. It's very thick.
Because it's probably like an all-eye contact,
It is. It
right?
covers everything, and it's very thick. And I mean,
man.
it's nothing compared to what Ian Coletti. I mean, once
of
Ian
course.
is in makeup, they make smoothies for him all day. He can't eat.
jeez.
So, but with Pip, there is a whole thing where he can only shoot for a certain amount of time with the contact for us to come out. So
But
we mess with the coverage. Yeah.
You had wigs, though, so...
Well,
I think you understand where they're coming from with all those wigs
I
that you
feel
have to
the
wear.
pain. I do have amazing wigs, right?
Yeah, you have
It's
amazing
crazy how
wigs.
a
I have
wig
amazing
can, like,
wigs.
completely change the look too.
Yeah, and I'm going to be honest with you. A lot of folks on Twitter are talking about Featherstone's quick change abilities, which obviously
Right.
are vast. But if you do look in this particular episode, if you look closely, you'll see just before I open the door is Jenny. You'll see the wig and the sweater hanging from the coat rack in the corner right next to the front door.
Nice.
So she's just prepared.
She's, of course, she's Featherstone.
Right. She's Featherstone.
Just insanely prepared all the time. Yeah, but the wig, and there is no makeup change between Featherstone and Jenny. So, and we did that on purpose because we knew there was going to be a lot of sort of going back and forth. It just looks like there's a makeup change because
It does.
the hair color is, and the wig itself is so, such a striking difference. Yeah.
And you were saying beforehand that there was a director that didn't recognize you?
No,
at
there was
first?
there were several crew members that introduced themselves to me 3 or 4 times on set. And one of our DPs, Andy Bigelli, my first day on set as Jenny, I came up for rehearsal already dressed, and he looked at my makeup artist, and he goes, "Who's that girl over there talking to Ruth?" And she was like, "This is Julianne." He goes, "No, that girl." She's like, "That's Julianne." He goes, "No, that girl right there." And she's like, "It's Julianne." And he said, "That mousy little thing is Julianne." Like, yeah. So it was. I mean, that's a relief on my end because that's accomplishing a lot. Because we wanted full transformations. I feel like it makes Featherstone more diabolical to be willing to fully embrace these sort of personas. And the personas represent sort of everything that she judges in other people, like sexuality for the jazz singer and using that. And Jenny sort of embodies weakness a lot, and that's everything she jams on Hoover about all the time. So it's I think it's really cool. It's a thrill as an actor to play.
Well, it's also, not blowing smoke up your ass. I really mean it. That it's a testament to you that we see the makeup and everything doesn't change, and we see a different character. Like we see that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I think it's a lot of you, and you're putting a lot into the wig.
Well, the facial expression too, just the difference between Featherstone, who looks very stern and composed, to I forgot the friend's
Jenny,
To
well,
Jenny, who looks downtrodden and defeated.
Yeah, and sad, but Jenny's dialect is kind of up and high, and so it changes. Now we're getting really actor dorky.
Technical.
That's great.
Here,
Let's talk about
but it does
like
something to your face to sort of talk higher and with that kind of Midwestern thing going on than just sort of flat.
Well, and then to go even another level further, I am a big Better Call Saul fan, and I didn't even realize, right? Like, I didn't even realize it was the same. You were the same actress. I was like, when I saw the credits,
Betsy's gorgeous, isn't she?
I
mean, she's just amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just love that show so much. That it's really impressive that she just blended in like that.
Oh, thanks, man. Thanks. Our first episode of Better Call Saul, I was sitting across from Bob Odenkirk in our first scene, and I went, "Oh, I know who I am in this," because he was the most sort of out there character in Breaking Bad, right? Like, he pushed the tone envelope the furthest.
Right.
I was like, he's the lead in this. Like, he has to be normal. I'm the cuckoo person that makes him look normal. Yeah. Oh, I know who I am here. I could do that. Yeah.
All right, so let's continue talking about the episode. So we had so many things.
Well, we had a flashback to Dad in the beginning with Jesse, which I think is important because they really keep laying down the groundwork for Jesse's past.
Story. And you even saw the picture when Hair Star was going through the book.
Yeah.
You saw the picture of what I believe is...
You saw a mansion.
Well, he had a brochure, too. He was even looking at.
He was looking at a brochure,
that had Angel on it and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it seemed like they're setting up, like, what happened to his dad, because we're not very sure what happened to his dad. We just know that he got shot in the head, but we don't know who did it.
We know, we kind of a little bit know from the first season. I mean, we don't really necessarily know who did it. We've seen the flashback enough times with a little bit more context.
Right.
Now, remind me, was this the first time we had heard him say the full line to Jesse? Because I always remember in the first season when he says the line, "You gotta be one of the good guys, Jesse, because why? Because there's way too many of the bad out there." I felt like he didn't say the second half.
I don't know. It sounded familiar to me, but I'm a big book
I feel like
reader.
he did too.
But my memory sucks.
Maybe it's both times, because that was always one of my favorite lines in the whole book.
I'm very sure that he says that, and then he does the thing where he's like, "Oh, it's my fault," and then he gets
Yeah, I feel like
yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Because I remember the first season, he definitely says the part of, "You always judge somebody by what they do, not the way they look." And then I feel like the one line that he doesn't say is, "You don't take no shit off no fools," right? Because that's the John Wayne line. We haven't got any of that, or really. So, but I thought that was interesting that to go back to that flashback in this episode. It's been, I think, like a full season since we've seen the flashback. Yeah. So aside from that, we've got this whole entire massacre that happens with the Grail.
Yes. Grail comes in and gets because we had
Call of Duty style.
Yeah,
I know.
right.
I love the way
I
it
was
was
really
shot. I love the way it
expecting
was shot.
like another full blown out action sequence.
Yeah.
So this was cool to see them go at it from a different way.
Do you know, I mean, that is credit to director Michael Dowse on this episode, but it was written that way from the beginning.
Oh,
It was, Craig wrote in the very first script I got that was going to studio, it was said this is shot from the POV of, they called it Grail Hero.
Oh, great.
And that was specifically laid down.
Yeah.
I just thought I think that's a fascinating thing for a writer to actually put in a
Just
script.
envision it that way.
Well, it makes a lot of sense too because of the whole silence thing of that they're blocking out all of the sound except for their own comms.
Right.
So that you know, not only does it add to tension, but it also serves the purpose of the story. They know what he can do already. You know, when they're sending the team in.
And they're not underestimating him from the very beginning,
And
which
also,
is nice.
which is nice, we didn't get Jesse trying to use the word.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's not working. They can't. Why is it not working? He just pulled it off and then
Kicks the
it
dude's
more.
ass and then takes the helmet off.
told
I like
you.
that some of the sound bled through. Like when it got really bad, you would sort of hear just
Yeah.
little bleed. I thought the
Even
sound,
just
sound design
The
did a great
detail
job.
Sound
of
design
the
did a great
bar,
job.
the like sound level bars in the right hand corner, and when they drop the thing down the stairs and it shoots up to red as it bounces down.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
little details.
And then
like
the
that.
cut back from that to into the apartment and to hear it, I actually wasn't breathing during that because it really was. It made me so tense.
Yeah, it
It's
was
also great to hear it in headphones. I recommend
Yeah.
watching that series in headphones.
Yeah, it was definitely mixed.
So
sense for
also,
him.
like, I was there watching a good portion of that shot, and a lot of it was shot POV from the actor. They had a camera mounted to the actor, and then they would come over and give him like direction on where to look for camera and go back.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, which I thought was it's really cool. That's why it looks so much like Call
Yeah.
of Duty, like a first person player game. Yeah.
yeah.
also, so that's the first time we've seen a full Samson unit, and it's just so great that like the color scheme and everything, they're all so like beautifully outfitted. Everything is exact. It's the white and red. It's the coolest. I'm just so glad they're keeping with it.
Yeah, when they cut to like the regular camera when he tells them to kill his friends and you see them all there and they look at him and they're all in the white with the red eyes, it's like, oh shit.
Yeah.
And also, it was important they have that moment in the car. At the
Yeah,
beginning
and
where
then
he's
they
like, I
were
love you, buddy. 'Cause
"Love
it's
you,
like,
man."
Yeah, like I know what's gonna happen here.
Yeah.
Oh no, they like each other too much.
Everyone's gonna die.
Oh, they're too happy.
was
This
so
isn't gonna end
creature.
well.
So, but also in the context of this scene, we find out what we had all suspected, which is that Dennis is now a vampire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this was like a big one where I felt like they dangled the carrot last week, but I almost felt like because of the way they did, maybe that it wasn't going to happen because it was a little too suggestive at the end of the episode. But now I just get the feeling, well, two things. First of all, Dennis is acting like a petulant child, which
I
is
love that.
Like-
hilarious.
Yes.
I
And
love that he's
like
a little kid.
Yeah, kid, then kind of a teenager. Like it was great.
Yeah, because it's his rebirth, so it actually
is.
kind of makes sense that he's acting like a kid, and you also have Cass like treating him like a kid, be like, "Don't drink the whole thing," or "Turn that music
the
down."
classic dad moment.
Yeah, he was becoming full on dad, and that was great to see.
And Cass, kind of like you think about Cassie in first season, he kind of was a lot of that like rambunctious, like just I'm not in an exact same way, but just to see him like. It was good for two reasons. A, that we see things are starting to deteriorate between him and Jesse, and B, to see like it made that more to see like this kind of father figure who was being sweet to his son. It made to me, even when he was being a dick to Jesse, so much more apparent. Like because we're seeing. We were just because it just created more of a divide for me.
I think it adds a dimension to his character that would otherwise be totally missing. I mean, we always think he's fun and he's likely to do absolutely anything, but this side of him where he's attempting to step up and be a parental unit and be paternal, right?
He's so vulnerable.
That's what I meant to
it's
say. Can you be here at every show? That's what I meant to say.
No, it's a totally different dimension to Cassidy.
But I think the problem is that he's trying to do that, but he knows also in the back of his mind the repercussions that are going to happen.
Yeah.
That as much as I'm trying to do this to save you and be nice and be fatherly and finally be there for you, I'm also turning you into a monster at the same time.
We do get a sense of like a warning from him, and kind of to establish the rules, because we don't know what. We've seen so many vampire movies and vampire shows, and we don't quite know what to expect from these vampires.
Yeah.
And one of the things he says is make sure to only drink blood when you're injured,
Right.
when you're hurt. which is, I think, kind of telling for what may happen if things go
of
wrong.
course.
Well, also, I think it was important to note the look on his face when he eats that Grail guy for a second. And he looks up and he has that look of like
Relief.
and joy. That like that definitely to me spells doom.
Like he just
I can't see that ending well.
Ate the best burger of his life.
Right, except it was meat of human with blood.
Well, that wow.
Except that.
Human
Eloquently
minor-
put.
Take a
Minor
drink now.
detail.
Yeah.
Other than that, otherwise, the same.
I was gonna say it's like when you find a Sonic,
That
but
and a
that's not
slice
the
of
same
cheese.
thing. No,
Yeah.
Right.
no.
I do love how they set up where after you talk yourselves out of getting shot, that you set up sending this Brad, and the way that you say Brad, because we've already seen like the Saint of all killers.
Yeah, right.
Or Saint of killers. I always say
always
all.
that same mistake.
Saint of killers, and so we kind of expect this one Terminator person to show up named Brad, who just sounds like. It just sounds like he came off the tennis court.
Yeah.
And you say it that way. You literally say like you want to have sex with Brad.
So
I mean,
my favorite thing about Brad, there's two things about Featherstone proper, you know, like regular Featherstone feels very sort of low and flat to me all the time. She thinks in a straight line. She's just always sort of right here. And the whole thing, there are two things in this episode. When Hair Star says he has a rape fantasy and I'm like, oh, well, you know, I'll put on some lipstick. That's great. And then this whole thing where Brad, like, actually does something to her insides where she's excited about Brad. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a true zealot as well. But yeah, I love that whole thing.
Yeah, the setup with the giant dude with the mask on.
With the Obama
Yeah.
mask on.
Which is frightening.
Yeah, but it was just like that's a classic Preacher and
Great
also like
misdirection.
Seth Rogen
Yeah.
humor.
Yeah.
Like we're gonna tease you guys into thinking this is the ultimate killer dude.
Yeah.
Your classic guy, the killer that shows up from out of town.
Also, seems like artwork from Preacher.
Yeah,
it feels like that character could be drawn into Preacher easily.
Yes.
That kind of hulking mass, shirtless
That
guy.
happens a lot on our show.
probably
There's a
would've been
lot of
naked,
like
though.
artwork that feels like it could come straight off a page. A lot
Yeah.
happens in post
Yeah, I
that
could-
feels like it could come straight off the page.
Right.
This was
Yeah.
like a project that it took years to make. I mean, so many different people.
Well, who does Preacher? I mean, you
know.
got to give AMC credit,
Right.
not just for doing it, but for also everything. Every time I read something online where people say, "Oh, well, they're not going to let them do this,"
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I mean, they've taken some big chances, and I'm sure they get hit by advertisers. I'm
yes.
positive they do. So it's Charlie Collier has taken a big risk with Preacher and continues to take it over and over and over again.
Well, I know a few years prior to Neil Moritz getting the rights to this, Seth and Evan had wanted to make it, and they had tried to put the project together and it had kind of fallen through a little, and they were on set for the Green Hornet, I believe, is the story, right? And it's like 2011 or 12 or something like that, and Neil was producing that, I think, or somehow he was on set, and Seth was like, we want to make Preacher, and he was like, if I get the rights, will you do Preacher? And they were like, yeah. And he's like, all right, I'll get the rights. And then he got the rights. And after that, it still took like 4.5 years to get the green
But
light.
it had been floating around for a decade.
Yeah.
I mean, it had been all over the place.
Well, as
Well,
soon
it's
as the
one of
Grail
those-
shows up, I'm kind of like, this is why it took so long. Because the Grail is really... We've been having fun all last season with a little bit of someone in the church, seeing God, but the Grail feels so close to the Vatican that it's kind of like, oh, this is what
Well,
scares
the
people
Grail
off.
is not the Vatican.
Yes.
However, let's talk about Garth Ennis wrote the comics in the 90s in Ireland, right? So when there was still a lot of...
yeah.
I mean, he grew up in a time period in Ireland where
Right.
there were bombings down the street, right? So I just got back from Ireland and Scotland, so it just seems more prevalent. They're like... there are a lot of statues and monuments to
Yeah.
all of this stuff.
A lot
so,
of Protestants versus Catholics.
Yeah, so you see a lot of that in the Grail. Like he
Yeah.
channeled a lot of that part of his life, I feel like, into the Grail, and we've come around to a moment again where the Grail is insanely relevant as a talking point in our world. So it's interesting. I mean, it's interesting to be on this side of it and have to crawl inside Featherstone, inside of a zealot, and see what makes that work and what makes that tick. But we need to know what does that right now, right?
Right.
We need to know what makes that tick.
When you play Featherstone, do you feel like you're playing a character that is inherently evil, or do you feel like do you find the redeeming qualities in Featherstone as you're playing?
I don't think anyone thinks they are inherently evil.
Sure.
I mean, I don't think I don't think there's a person walking around that would themselves say I'm looking for redeeming qualities in myself. There are people who might be like, oh, I'm kind of an ass, you know, but not like. I don't think anybody thinks of it that way.
This is a show with a likable Hitler.
But as an actress, do you find those qualities to make playing the kid? Like,
yeah, you have to find. I mean, you have to find a door in, right? You have to find your own way in. But I think it's a huge danger point to judge a character ever. I mean, you're talking to the person who played Betsy Kettleman, so like it's not, you can't rather than judge that, you have to look for the reasons why. You know, the comics have a bit of Featherstone's backstory. I think there's something in her past that has made the place where her heart used to be a black void. You know, I mean, something happened that broke her so inherently that this is the direction she took. But that's just me personally talking.
Do you do that character work? Like you have your own backstory you're playing?
Oh, yeah.
But you can't talk about it because it's not part of the story?
Well, it's not. I mean, honestly, I won't talk about it because I like where my work and the writer's work meets. Like, I have a writer-director that I work with all the time who always begs me to see. I have a little character notebook I drag around all the time, and he always wants to see my character notebook, and I'm like, no, I want to know where our work meets and where it clashes and where it. I don't know. Yeah, sure. I'm a big dork building out backstory like that, and I build out the backstories. The brilliant thing about Featherstone for me is I build out all of the personas
each
fully.
one?
Yes.
That's great.
How
fully
do you think
because Featherstone would, right?
Featherstone would do that,
yeah, totally.
How do you think Featherstone in the comics is different from your Featherstone?
My Featherstone is more badass. I think the Featherstone in the comics is equally as devout, equally as much a zealot, and she's willing to do a lot. Like early on in the comics, she throws herself out of a moving car. That's how she escapes. You know,
Right.
A little bit of spoilers for the comics, by the way.
Sorry about that. Sorry.
I just wanted to really ask it.
But like my Featherstone, you know, that they've built out Tulip quite a lot from the comics.
Yeah.
And I think they've done the same for my Featherstone. I think comics in the 90s, the women are a little underwritten.
Yep.
I mean,
so so they've so
they were perfect the way they were.
So they've built out. My Featherstone is more badass. My Featherstone is, you know, can take apart a gun and put it back together while casually having a conversation. And this transformational aspect of her is new.
It seems like a really strong way to adapt any sort of story, especially from page to screen, seems to be to focus on these underdeveloped characters and really develop them out.
Well, it keeps. I mean, I feel like they just added to her. So the base of her, I didn't have to leave anything out from my comic book work in building out the character. It's just layers got added. So that's a big virtue for me. But I mean, underdeveloped characters are a great opportunity for our writers, right?
And we all are in total agreement that, I mean, thus far with the show, every character they've taken, they've developed, or they've added an extra thing. It's added so much to the story. I mean, I think you mentioned Ruth Nega's character, and like that's been one of the best parts of the show is their willingness to change her a little bit.
I just saw a note, and I was just like, do you think Featherstone specifically hates Harry Connick Jr.? And that's why.
Do you know on Twitter, because I tweeted a little during the East Coast feed tonight, and on Twitter I put up, I really love Harry Connick. I've been to Harry Connick Jr. concerts, and that was a last minute rewrite in the script.
Oh, really?
To
That kept changing
a different person?
Yeah, that kept changing the location. The original location was an old folks' home. I know that's really
morbid.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, I'm glad they pulled another Tom Cruise.
It kept shifting where it was and who it was.
That was perfect.
I love Harry Connick personally, but I understand why Featherstone would not like Harry Connick.
But also, she knew where he lived.
And why he would be expendable. And she does know where he lives, because that doesn't come up on Google Maps. She's like, it's Harry Connick Jr.'s house. She would have all of New Orleans just at her fingertips, right? I mean, she'd have all
the cat. Can we talk about the cat clicking pop up and how wonderful? Like, that's the cat clicking pop up is vintage Hairstar. That's the kind of stuff in the comic books that I would always like fall over laughing when stuff like that would happen. The most it's the most advanced organization.
Yeah,
in the world.
so advanced.
And we're still getting spammed
but he
with
can't get rid
pop
of
ups.
The kitten pop up.
But we can't disable our pop up. We don't have a
And
pop
I love
up.
that
I
like
want the kitten.
Yeah, he looks at it like it's like a legitimate, like, do you like, no, I don't like.
Yeah,
no,
like he considered it.
No, like
that seems suspicious to me. I gotta be honest. I feel like the kitten pop up was like
kind of
kind
gonna
of
come back.
Is that coming back? Is that like someone's hand trying to change? Because you see, the first time the cat pops up, it makes him accidentally click Jesse's video again and watch it and start to focus more on Jesse. Second time, it was to delay where you're going to turn.
So in your world of Preacher, in your mind, there's someone is hacking the Grail right now.
Maybe.
I'm saying someone could be hacking the Grail.
That's a dangerous hack.
I hope
That's a
it's
dangerous
random.
hack. It could also
dangerous
be.
hack.
It could also. There is a loose god out there
So
that could be putting his hand into things. I'm just saying.
And that God
throwing
works
this out.
through pop-up.
Through kitten pop-ups. And God might be the dog, and then using kitten pop-ups is what I'm saying.
Just took a left turn.
So let's make sure that we cover the last bit of the episode that we haven't talked about yet, which is the Jesse Tulip relationship. So the Jesse Cassidy relationship was an important one. We definitely saw a piece of that. I think the deterioration of the trio and Jesse, like the tension just keeps building. But luckily, this episode they didn't take us down the same path they keep taking us down, which is the Tulip and Cassidy path. They took us more down the Jesse and Cassidy deteriorating path.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, Cassidy was there though for most of that conversation too, and like.
No, I just mean like it feels like they kept shoving that wedge between Jesse and Tulip, and Cassidy was at the center of it. This episode, and Jesse looks at Cassidy and he's like, "We're good. I got this." He's kind of like, "You know what? You're a little too familiar, man.
Right.
Get out of here. Like this is my relationship. What are you doing hanging around all the time?"
And it also seems like the wedge that's being formed is all Jesse's doing.
Right.
He's the one
He uses
that's
the word of God on Tulip.
Yeah.
Multiple
which
times.
is
But he does it again. He does it in this episode after, after she has expressly told him.
I think this is
how
like
she
the
feels.
third time.
I think. Yeah, and she. But I did love that conversation. It felt like such a realistic conversation where he's explaining one thing and he's apologizing for one thing.
She's
and
focused on
she's
something completely
focusing
different.
on the bigger picture thing that is such a bigger deal to her. And that's
It's
so
great writing.
real. That's
It's
what happens.
great
That's what
writing.
You
real
also
life is.
describe
Frank
most
Rosenberg did a
conversations
great
between
job.
men and women. Because women usually are, sorry, this is sexist, but I want to say it. I'm a therapist. But women, I think, usually a lot of times do look at a bigger picture where guys usually are focused on like a one, especially like in a fight or
It's
flight
all
mode.
about perspective.
Sorry, stereotypes, but I think it's true.
Sometimes the picture is larger depending on where you're standing.
This is true. This is true.
Sure. So I definitely think that conversation was an important one and one that we need to pay attention to because even after the fact, I still don't think Tulip really is fully on board or that she had forgiven him. She was doing the sarcastic thing. She was being kind of passive aggressive. I just don't think that's really behind them.
I want to say I don't necessarily agree with him using the word on her, but I do think in this instance it was kind of okay because she did need to sleep.
That's the way I felt too.
That's my question.
Maybe she needs to sleep,
like-
but really she needs to deal with her PTSD issues.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
But she's not doing it. She's going to a bar and getting shot in
And
the
I
chest.
think Jesse
You know,
knows
but
that she's not going to do
He
that.
could have a conversation with her about her PTSD.
But she
Yeah.
doesn't want to talk
She
to
won't do
him.
that.
Seems
She
like he
won't
tried
talk
She
to him.
screamed at him.
I don't know. I
So-
think you're thinking like a dude.
I
I think it is. I think it is very. I think,
the
it is be
problem-
like you can't do this, so I'm just gonna help you, even though you don't accept my help.
Right.
Really, he should have talked to her.
Yeah.
And also from.
But I
I
feel
mean,
like
look,
he did
incapacitating
try
a
to talk
woman
to her.
is not okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
let's just
Let me
say that,
clarify.
okay?
Yeah.
I mean,
It's not okay.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
think it was right.
And also from Cass's perspective, you also have to think of he did not want to turn his son. He wanted
Jesse
to use the word, try to use the word,
And he wouldn't
and
do
he
that.
didn't do it.
But he'll
And what
use it
does he
on-
do but put his girlfriend to sleep with it?
Yeah.
So it's just like you couldn't, because honestly, it's been kind of bugging
Oh,
me.
I never thought about
Because I kept thinking of he doesn't know what will happen, but he could have tried. He could have just been like, I'm going to try, but it could turn him into a Franken monster. I do not
Right.
know.
Yeah.
And he didn't even try. He didn't try, and yet he's bending the police to his will. He's putting his girlfriend to sleep.
Well,
he's not being a good guy right now.
But so I have noticed clearly the Jesse arc. I mean, the full arc of his character to the end of the show will be one thing, but the first part of this arc, it's gonna break at a certain point. There's gonna be a moment when he has that realization something really bad's gonna happen.
I don't know that it's a visual arc.
You don't think so?
I think there's an entity inside of him that's half angel, half demon, and they're
Yeah.
doing battle with each other. I don't know that looks like. I don't know that looks logical.
Well, yeah, and to me, we've always been talking about how it latched onto him because he's the same. He doesn't quite. He's in a gray area himself, so he'll always be battling that. But right now, he's heading towards the dark path. And I hope that we're going to see him head towards the light path a little bit and kind of zigzag down those paths.
I think it's going to look more zigzaggy.
I mean, it did give a part of his soul away as well.
Yeah.
I think his
Which
willingness...
is affecting things.
That's what I think too.
His willingness to use the word irresponsibly, I think, is going to wane. That's the part of the arc that I'm talking about. I don't expect 7 seasons later we're going to be seeing the same kind of irresponsible, say no to Cassidy, put your girlfriend to sleep kind of behavior. I think he's going to become much more balanced with his use of
he's
the
like
word.
a preteen with his power right
he's
now.
learning.
Yeah.
Well, it's just like Dennis. He's growing and adapting
Yes.
his newfound abilities. And
But I never thought about it until you said, I'm a little pissed at him now. I'm like, he used that on Tulip to go to sleep and he wouldn't help his dad. I'm pissed off about that now. I'm like, that is messed up.
So the last bit of the episode ends with Star walking into this bar after basically the whole mission with the cops has effectively failed.
Well, and also his encounter that
Star.
arranged
Well,
for
we
him.
started something.
Well, that wasn't mission.
My one thing about the encounter, this is what I will say, because that is directly from the comics. That's not, I don't think we're exploiting anything. I think we talked about that already.
Yeah.
In the comic book, there seems to be a little bit more of an anger at Hoover for it having happened, which then results eventually in Star having the same epiphany, same moment sort of acceptance that he has. It happened so quickly in the episode, I felt like almost we were robbed of some of the comedy that I was expecting.
Yeah.
I still found it to be hilarious. The episode was hilarious.
But you were given this weird date with the butter.
This is true. We forgot
So-
about the butter date.
Right.
So you were given the butter date.
What?
I mean, that maybe fills in a
What
hole.
is next after you hold the butter with your neck?
I don't know.
What comes next?
Do you have any idea how many discussions
I
there were
want to
about that?
know what was next.
I'm so happy that actress has that for her reel.
Yeah.
That's just so random.
I have a feeling there was a conversation at some point that was like, look, the version of Hair Star that would have done something, it would have been so horrible and inappropriate. We're not going to show that on TV, so we have to be vague and bizarre and funny, and that's what we're going to do, and it's going to be a stick of butter. I think it serves the same purpose without being totally inappropriate. Which
Well,
is
and he also wanted a rape fantasy, and he got the fact that it got turned on him is funny, but his anger for that comes in the comics. We could talk about this in spoiler country. It's like he gets tricked into that sort of scenario,
right,
in the comics, and that's where it becomes like a point of embarrassment. And I think they maybe wanted to stay away from him hating the fact that he now needs to be at least pegged.
I mean, it was a different time.
Yeah.
So it was...
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think they wanted to have him kind of accept it and be fine with it.
Right.
And it kind of is... Yeah. It's an interesting way to go.
Well, they also touched on a certain amount of sexuality in his origin story.
Yes, that's true.
So there's like... I don't know. I felt like Pip had a recall to that same look on his face as, when he was hooked up to the car batteries.
That's true.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
And now we're talking about that.
And the nipple rings, and that's very new for the show, and you kind of saw that he was maybe into...
And the fight strategy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's,
It makes sense. It all makes sense.
Are you?
That makes sense.
Yes, I am pleasuring myself.
Yeah.
Amazing character.
Great.
So
Amazing character. So yes, the episode ends in the bar. He walks in. He says, "I hear you're looking for God. Perhaps I can help you." So I think that probably takes us directly into predictions, right?
Right.
That's where we should get.
Yeah.
All my predictions are kind of
AfterBuzz
in
TV.
spoiler country, so I think I'm gonna wait for that.
We'll be vague into our sign off, then we'll get to spoiler predictions. So first and foremost, on that side of the table, the non-comic book side, anything coming from you?
Oh, everything.
Sorry, I was really dramatic. I should have prepared you.
I think, I mean, they kind of showed like in next week, but they kind of acted like Tulip's gonna be kind of beyond to Featherstone this next episode, but I don't think she is.
Watching her face,
I
her
think
reaction.
Featherstone's gonna be a little craftier. I think it's gonna take them a longer. I kind of hope they stretch it out and they don't find out who you really are next
I
episode.
could tell you, but I would have to kill you.
You would, and you could, So that's my prediction.
Let me break our streak. Get back down to 3 hosts. I'm excited for the Dennis thing because it definitely looks like he's going off the rails.
Yeah.
And that Cassie's gonna have a hard time containing him. So I'm curious to see how that storyline plays out.
Yeah, I'm curious. It seems like with Dennis, especially since Dennis isn't in the comics, I'm dying to know what happens with him. I think he'll go off the rails, and they'll have to make a decision whether to keep Dennis around or not.
Or stake him. Yeah. I'm also excited just to get more vampire lore in this world too, because they're bound to get more explanations on how it works with a new vampire around.
Right.
Yeah, sure.
And I think we saw too, the fangs were very, very minor.
I don't think they're there.
I think it's just.
Are there fangs?
Yeah, there
are fangs.
There were, but they're not.
They look like really
very small.
It looks like
They
the
also
canines are just very minorly.
Yeah, they also shot a much more gory version of that than what showed on TV.
Got it.
Yeah.
Censors.
My prediction, my non-spoiler prediction, is because we're nearing the end of the season, I think that we are going to see all of the hints towards Angelville. I think we're gonna get that at the end of the season. But I also think that the fact that Star is engaging Jesse means we're gonna get deeper into Grail territory, and without going into any spoilers, what that means, where the Grail is, which might split the group up. Because I think with all of the
storylines.
No, I was going to say with all the tension they're building between our trio, feels like just staying on that same path without some sort of break.
No, I feel like
there has to be a break at the end of the season, because they just keep hammering home the same points, and either if they all stay together, you're going to have to see some sort of conflict that I don't think the show really wants just yet. It's so early on in the show, so I'm guessing there'll be a break.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the season finale is them splitting up somehow.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
Anything else from you?
No, I think I want to get into spoiler country.
Well, let's do our quick sign off and then get into spoilers so anybody that doesn't want to hear it.
And you can't say any predictions because you know.
But you can talk about comic book stuff.
In about 30 seconds, we're going to do some spoilers. If you guys want to find me, you can follow me with Ben Bateman Media on Twitter or Instagram.
You can find me at Dave Child, at MR Dave Child. I'm Dave Child, DaveChild.com.
I hate following Dave. I'm Nate Miller. You can find me on all social media at Dog Like Nate.
Hey, your voice is so smooth
Yeah,
and pretty, and mine's like
he's got
Guys,
a shtick,
we're all
and it's
so
like
great.
such a good
We're
shtick.
all so
nice.
I'm gonna steal it one day.
We're all so good.
You can find me on Matt Marr at the Matt Marr, 2 T's, 2 R's.
And Julianne, where can the folks find you?
Julianne Emery.
Excellent.
At Instagram, Twitter, Facebook.
Awesome.
Sweet.
We're going to tweet at you now.
I think you should.
Okay, cool.
I think I'd like to.
Good.
All right, guys, that's going to do it. But we are going to get into a spoiler prediction right now. So this is your official
Spoiler alert!
Get out of the room.
It's real.
Julianne
Get
thought she thought the show was over. We gotta freaking leave right now.
So this is it, guys. Turn off your iPod. Turn off your computer.
Here we
Unplug your
go.
headphones.
1, 2, 3. So, we're about to meet the lineage of the Messiah,
Yes.
Yeah.
which I am so excited to see them do. And I mean, you can't say if they do it like the comics, but like I'm assuming they're doing it like the comics. And I can't believe we're getting to it so soon.
It's so inappropriate for television.
Yes.
And if they really do it, it's going to be brilliant.
Dude, we have a sympathetic Hitler. I think
Yeah.
we've gone
Yeah.
way past, like...
I don't know. There's levels, sympathetic Hitler, and then there's
Right.
what is to come.
I think to me it sounds like they're going to bring up the what's happened to the lineage of the Messiah and show that as and Harry Starr is going to try to recruit Jesse to be the new Messiah because of that. All the beats that they
And
have
I think
in the
that
comics.
happens, right? Doesn't it happen in the comics?
I mean, he tries to, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that they're doing that. I think we're also going to get the Allfather
Yeah.
next
yeah.
week. He's not as big as he is in the comics, but maybe that's the Allfather, maybe it's not.
I know everybody keeps looking at me.
I know. I just
I'm
trying
a
to get
wall.
it.
turns
Small.
out you're a good actor, so we
I'm-
can't tell.
I'm a no spoiler zone here.
Yeah.
I really feel like all of the tension that they're building right now, and just to reiterate exactly what I was talking about in the spoilers before, Angelville is going to happen at the end of the season, and I think all of the trust issues and
Yes.
between Tulip and Jesse, they're going to result in them being tied to chairs together and talking about like just like we get in the comics. I think it's sort of the perfect catharsis for the
I
moment.
think
they're
it's going to end with the family showing up and kidnapping them.
in. Oh, I kind of think that I keep
like
saying
saving
it,
them from the Grail
cliffhanger.
or something.
I don't know. I think it's going
No.
to end. I think it's going to end with the family showing. They've just resolved a little bit about. They've just escaped the Grail, and then the family shows up, takes them
It takes them.
out of nowhere, and that's where it ends. And all next season's going to be
And
the
they
family.
don't take Cassidy.
Just maybe, or just before the Grail goes to take all of them, and Cassidy's all that's there, or something. and
Yeah,
take
something
Cassidy.
like
Yeah,
that.
something. That's what I mean. I think the break is. It feels very logical. I mean, honestly, even in
Yeah.
the comic books, the way they bound those books, like book 2 is the family storyline. Book 3 is the one where they're split up. So it would almost make sense to follow the story. So yeah, that's
I mean that was the big thing I wanted to talk about.
Do they give you spoiler training?
I've done an AMC show before.
Yeah,
The contract is very thick.
and they also I did get a sense this episode that I knew where Hairstar was. He was the leader of the Samsons.
Yeah.
Rather than the Allfather. He's not the Allfather.
right.
Yet.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see how they're going to progress that, and we'll see more of the Grail and what the Grail can do.
Well, I like the distinction too. It definitely seems like, Featherstone and Hoover are more of like the special agent type.
Yeah.
Where I feel like in the comic I don't want to call Featherstone a secretary, but she seemed more.
Well, they felt corporate.
Yes,
Yeah.
like more that they were
Comics.
just kind of around the Grail
Right.
office. Where
Yeah.
now they feel like operatives. They feel like they're special agents or whatever.
I'm just excited to see more of their relationship. Hoover
Yeah.
and Featherstone. It's so funny.
It actually makes sense that Airstar would keep them close this time because they're so operative.
Yes.
And
Well,
not
that's
just,
true in the
bumbling.
comics. I mean, he sort of takes them and turns them into the
His-
beginning
right.
of
his own his own kind
That's
of
right.
coup
It's in a
d'etat.
limo, right? It's in a car.
Yeah.
That scene, yeah.
Yeah.
And I hope, and I really, really hope that just like the book, we get them until the end of the story. Like they stay around that long.
I
'cause-
hope so too.
All right, guys, I think that's going to wrap us up here. So one more time, thank you so much for coming on the show and hanging out. This
Thank
was a
you for
blast.
having me. It's a
Yay.
pleasure. A real
Congratulations.
pleasure.
It's a really great show. So we're
you.
we're loving it. Guys, same time, same place next week. We're getting down to the end of the season. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And we already did our sign off. So
Yep.
Yeah.
we'll catch you guys later.
See you next
So
week.
bye-bye.
Bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.